Welcome back to How to Begin a Widow's Ministry. In this session 2, we're going to be talking about how to begin regular meetings. In the first session, we had talked about beginning with a kickoff event, such as a banquet, a luncheon, or a tea. So after you have that event, then you can begin regular times to meet with widows. And this choice of how often you meet is up to you. Now, I had mentioned at the end of the other one, you don't have to have a banquet to get your widow's ministry kicked off. You can just begin regular widow's ministries. And if you decide to do it that way, I have included a sheet called the Widow's Information Sheet for Meetings, which actually gives them an opportunity to fill out the best time of day that they're available, the days of the week, how often they would like meetings. It also includes questions like, what would you like to do? What do you expect of the widow's ministry? So it's a little bit more, more in depth than the widow's information sheet that we have for the banquet. So if you didn't have the banquet first off and you begin with the meetings, you'll be able to use this sheet at your very first meeting, because you want to make sure you pass those out, get those collected back, take a look at them, and decide from those sheets, decide possibly the best day, the best time of day, and then how often you want to meet. Now, what we did at our first meeting when I began this 6 years ago, I decided that I would get together with them first because I didn't have an information sheet like this, and we talked about it at the meeting, how often we wanted to get together. And everyone's different, so you come to an agreement about it. The way we decided to do it was twice a month. The ladies' feelings were once a month, and then if you have a family thing, come on the very day that we're getting together, it'll be 2 months before we see each other. So we chose to have it twice a month, and I'll share a little bit more about that later on. So you want to begin by looking over those sheets, finding out about your widows, and then deciding on the day and the time that you want to meet. Now, always remembering you do want to check with your authority, check your church calendar. You don't want to conflict, especially you don't want to conflict with something like senior adult ministry event, okay? So definitely keep in accordance. You want to be accountable to someone in your church at all times. Keep that communication open, as we talked about during the first session. Now, insofar as the location, where to have it, you can have it at church. But in this way, you do have an opportunity to really step into the community more, such as there are some widows groups who meet at libraries, others at senior centers. You can meet in people's homes. There's lots of different choices. When you do step outside the church to have your women small group meeting, you allow more people to kind of come in. It just because some struggle with coming into a church. And maybe there's someone from a different denomination, a widow that hears about it, and she wants to come, but possibly having it at home just might seem a little bit easier for them to come. But that is for you to decide. Next, you want to figure out who you want to invite. Again, I would keep it to widows because it's widows that have so much in common with one another. There are some churches who have gone ahead and invited in singles and divorcees and that sort of thing, but then you may consider not calling it a widows group. So those are some decisions that you will need to make. You don't have to do a lot. Decorating is always nice. Even if you're going to have food or not have food, that's totally your choice. Or possibly you want to meet at a restaurant. The way we had ours set up was we decided to meet 2 Saturdays a month. The second Saturday of the month, we chose to go somewhere. Sometimes we went to a park, sometimes we went to a free concert, just to kind of get out and about. There's something about traveling together in a vehicle that helps you to get to know one another and just to build a relationship. We learned that in the early years of ministry, taking youth to to all different events, to competitions and to retreats and that sort of thing. That time in the van or in the vehicle is very important. It's just a good relaxed setting for you to get to know one another. So we chose to do that, and sometimes we'd pack a lunch, or sometimes we'd make it in the middle of the afternoon. But we were real flexible, but we kind of got out. And then on the fourth Saturday of the month, we would do a where everyone went ahead and brought a dish. And then we put all the dishes together and had lunch together. And so it's kind of your choice how you want to set it up and how the widows are. But I do want you to remember to be conscious for those widows who can't afford to go out to eat every time. There's some who are on a very tight budget. So you want to maybe have some flexibility there. Maybe sometimes go out to eat and other times have a potluck. And give some variety there. Excuse me. So wherever you decide to have it, though, even setting up a table, I would always set up a table with a tablecloth and maybe some flowers or just some fun decorations, just to kind of, again, let them know that they're special. You might find one of the widows who enjoy that. Maybe you've been to a widow's house and you see flowers and her table is always nicely set up. Maybe that's her gifting. Maybe she enjoys setting a nice table. So you could ask her and say, would you be interested in setting up the decorations for our table each month? So use the other widows to be able to do things, because God has given each one of us gifts, and we are a body. Some of us are hands, some of us are feet, some of us are invisible inside with the heart, or the lungs, So each and every one of us have a gift that we can use. So involve some of the other widows in it too. Name tags, as we talked about with the banquet, name tags are really good in the beginning, but they're also good later on, because as you have visitors coming in, it is nice for the visitors to be able to say the person's name and to learn that person. Because what you're creating is, you're creating a family. And family knows each other's names. And so having those name tags each week is a great help, or each meeting is a wonderful help, especially to your new ones. So an important thought there to think about, because you do want to, we are one big family. I remember one widow in particular. Her family lived farther away, and she had been looking for some avenue, something to feel a part of. And she came, and when she left that first meeting that she came to, she called me and she said, you know what, Marlene? I have found my family. I want to be a part of the widow's family. And that's what it becomes. It becomes a family for widows, where we're able to open up and share and talk. And that's what a big part of these widows' meetings are. Because, well, I'm going to get into some of that in just a minute. But your purpose behind these meetings is to give widows a chance to talk to each other, because they can help one another. I talk about doing a short devotional. A short devotional is a good idea. But did you hear me? Short devotional. Because widows need that opportunity to talk. I've heard of some widows groups, and they end up making it a Bible study. I don't know about y'all, but there are Bible studies everywhere. And a Bible study doesn't necessarily give you a good opportunity to share your heart and to share what you're feeling. Widows need to do that. We don't have that person to sit across the table in the morning and talk about how you're feeling, about the coronavirus, about all these thoughts and fears that you have. You have no one to lay down next to at night and talk about the day's happenings. That's why widows need to connect to each other. That's why I have named this ministry Widows Link. Even the logo has circles around L-I-N-K, because we're tied together. We are linked together. We are a family. So that is one of the main purposes for this meeting, is to be able to give widows a chance to connect and to share and to talk with one another. So a time of encouragement in the Word is important, yes, but definitely to have that time to talk. You can, as I talked about earlier, you can do a potluck at a restaurant. And one of the things that we did too is you can bring people in after a while. I encourage after a while. We did it about 6 or 9 months down the road. On our potluck Saturday, I ended up finally bringing people in to teach them different things, to teach them cell phone, to teach them about their health, financial things, things like that that's going to help them. I had tried some of that in the very beginning, but they just wanted to talk. They were hurting. They wanted to get to know one another. They need that time, particularly in the beginning, 3 to 6 months, where they can share and talk. You can go ahead and plan some things, whether you want to maybe plan a game to play. You can even plan a game, a game meeting where you get together and play games. That's always fun. That's a great way to get to know one another. Eating and playing games. That's just recipe for delight right there. And so you can do that, but plan ahead, and you can make a schedule and plan things, and if they end up talking, just put the program aside and let them talk and let them share their heart and their struggles and that sort of thing. Many times you'll come across, someone will say, oh, it's my 2-year anniversary next week. It gives them a chance to voice that, to voice their feelings. Then others can share, oh yes, I found that, my second year was harder than my first. And just the talking and the healing that is going on there is spectacular. So I want to encourage you to really, really make sure they have time for that talking and that exchange. You do want to be sensitive to keep the meeting within an hour to 2 hours. We planned ours for an hour and a half. And it's good to have a closing time because that releases some people to go if they're ready to go. Now, our ladies knew, and we closed in prayer after about an hour and a half, and then they'd stay for another 30 minutes or another hour talking. I was like, that's fine. But those who needed to go could leave. The last thing you want to do is have a widow leaving there and go, I don't want to sit there that long again, after sitting there for 3 hours. You want to be considerate of their time. So you do want to plan that and stick to that plan. Yes, there will be varying times, and that's all right. But you want them to want to come back the next time. All right? So having an icebreaker at the beginning or a game at the beginning, again, is just another way for them to get to know one another and break the ice. So that's always a good thing to do. You want to have the next meeting planned, and so you want to make sure that you let them know when the next meeting is, whether you have it on little sheets of paper to be able to hand them, anything you can put in their hand to where they can put it up on the refrigerator. Because as I go and visit different widows, what I find is there's lots of things on the refrigerator. These are my doctor's appointments. This is when my family is coming. Because our brains just don't operate as well anymore. So we need those reminders. So put something in their hand and let them know when the next meeting is. So getting to know one another is so important in this process. Reminding them of the next meeting. And then after your meeting, what you want to do is possibly, after that first meeting in particular, I would encourage you to write a thank you note to each one of them that came. Hopefully, if you didn't get their information, before, make sure you have those information sheets so you can get their information. So important. Write them a thank you note, thanking them. We live in such a tech world, and especially with all this quarantine, we have spent so much time on our phones and messaging. But to be able to receive a handwritten note of thanks, it's just like gold. it's like, oh, wow, somebody took the time to write a note to me. I love to go in my mailbox and see anything that's handwritten. It just makes my day. It really does. So write a thank you note, and then within it, let them know when the next meeting is, letting them know, hoping that, they can join you and that sort of thing. And then also you want to have someone, hopefully someone else, not yourself, but hopefully someone else, who can call them and remind them just a few days before. Hey, we all need reminding. So just a quick phone call, that person can check on them, just let them know it's coming up. Maybe you're going to have food, Mexican food, so you can tell them on the phone call, we're going to do a Mexican menu, so if you want to bring something that's Mexican. Or we're doing soup or baked potatoes, would you like to bring sour cream? But just having that contact with them is really important. Again, letting them know that they are important and they're not forgotten. It amazes me the amount of widows who feel forgotten, even with their families. It's because, our kids grow up and they have their own lives. And we can't expect them to dote on us and take care of them because, for them to check on us all the time, they have their own lives and they're busy. Many of them have kids and they have careers and they're busy doing things. So that's why we connect and we check on one another and we love on each other. Widows Link. Widows Link. And you can also go ahead and then, once you have all the information from the widows, you can go ahead and prepare a calendar with all of their birthdays on it, because we all love to receive birthday cards, right? I just had a birthday 2 weeks ago, and I was away at a resort center, and I've been kind of busy. And my son called me the other day. He said, Mom, I haven't seen you yet, and I still have your Mother's Day card. And I was away for my birthday, so I didn't really get birthday cards. But I did go to the store, and I found the neatest birthday card for myself. I've never bought myself a birthday card before. But it's neat getting birthday cards, isn't it? It really is, and it's special to the widows. So having a calendar or just having the widows' names with the telephone numbers, if they'll give you permission to do that, with their telephone numbers, with their birthdays. You can even include, the death of their spouse, their anniversary dates, all of those things, just to be able to show them that they're not forgotten, that they're loved and they're important. So I want to share with you now some additional things you can do with your meetings. I had given you a couple ideas, whether you want to do potluck, restaurants, take turns cooking. You can do that too. You can take turns who wants to cook for next month. That is, if you have a lot of very gifted cooks. Not all churches have gifted cooks, all right? You can plan trips, of course, museums, parks. One of my favorite things was to call the local college and find out what inexpensive or free concerts they were giving. Many times they will do orchestra concerts free of cost. Sometimes it'll be out in the park. Our ladies, none of us had ever been to an opera. The local college did an opera and charged $8 for seniors. And so you can go and you can do things possibly that the widows have never had a chance to do. Some may have not gone to a ballet. Maybe you can find a ballet to go to. But again, please, keep in mind the finances. I talked to one group and they were sharing with me different things that they do every month. And I mean, each one of those things seemed like they were $25, $30 every time they went someplace. Not all widows can afford that. So keep in mind to keep the finances something that a widow could handle. You can also choose to do a book study. We did one on the book Philippians 4:8. Think on these things, the good, the pure, the wonderful. There are a lot of books out there, and together you could do a book study if you wanted to do it once a week for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So that's another thing you can do. You can do goodie boxes for military. I came across one widows group that once every, I forget if it was 4 months, 6 months, They brought all this stuff together, and they packed together boxes for military in their town or else within their churches. What a great idea to be able to do and to bless others. There's many avenues that you can find of ways to bless others. One time, one of our field trips was to go and to help a food bank. Out of that, one of the widows decided she wanted to do that on a regular basis. As you do these different things and reach out and introduce them to maybe new things, they may discover that that's something they want to do. So there's a good thought. And then I talked about you can bring in people to your meetings to teach life skills, computers, cell phones, doctors on health, so many different things that widows need to learn, because there are so many things that we widows had depended on our husbands to do, and suddenly it's on our lap. And we're like, I don't understand this computer for nothing. All right? So bringing people in to be able to help with real life skills is a great help for widows. You could always do a cooking for one class. Maybe you could ask a chef or a cook in your church to come in and give the widows ideas on cooking for one. Because the truth of it is, many times we widows will grab something quick. I discovered after my husband died that groceries are really heavy. So when we go to the grocery store, we'll buy a little bit of this and a little bit of that because we don't want to carry in 20 bags. So being able to learn to cook for one and give some creative ideas is another idea. I tell you what, a great place to get ideas on things to do, you go to any senior citizen center. They come up with great ideas to do, trips to take, places to go and visit, things to do. So go to your senior center, get one of those monthly calendars or talk to people and just get some creative ideas. There's lots of ideas out there. There was one group that I talked to, and they do weekly meetings. Now, that takes a lot of planning. Bless their heart. They've been doing it for about a half a year. They have weekly meetings, and once a month they do birthday week where they celebrate birthdays for the month. And then they do special things on different weeks, but they've been doing it every week, and my hat's off to them. That's a lot of work. But one of the things they did was they had a 50s night, and everybody dressed in 50s, and then they had Coke floats and just played the music of the times and just had a great idea. Just wonderful things that you can do. But the main reason behind all of this comes that you are giving them opportunity to connect, to talk with one another, to be encouraged that the Lord is with them, that they are not in this alone, that the Lord will help them no matter how strange grief is and how rough the path can be. But you are giving them this opportunity to connect. So that is the purpose behind regular widows' meetings. So my prayers are with you as you step out and do this. If you have any questions, if there's any way I can help you, please just go to our Facebook. You can go to our Facebook page, but to get in contact with us, the best way is to go to widowslink.org and go to the contact information, and I'll talk with you. If you're a widow who's struggling, I'm here for you. That's what I do. That's what my heart is. So I am here to help in any way I can. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these trainings. And I pray for you as you step out to do the widow's ministry. The Lord bless you, and may He just give you creative ideas and strengthen you as you go forth to do this ministry. The Lord bless you. Thank you so much.